Hey guys, welcome to El Jefe's Chop Shop. I'm Jeff, and it's a new day, and we got the same problems. So let's unpack the car and get stuck into it. So as you can see, I brought a lot of tools from the other house, most importantly a frappe from McDonald's, and these sleeves that I haven't cut yet because I didn't get home until late last night. So first up is fixing these threads, just clean them up. Got new bolts, new nuts, and these are the original bolts for the A-arms to hold to the chassis. So I'll run them all through a die just to clean them up and then weld them to the car. So I'm in the right hand side wheel well here, and you can see the chassis where my hand is, and these are the nuts that I need to replace. So there's two on either side, you can see the other two over there as well. So this side, they're actually fine, they're a little bit rusty, but as you can see there's not a lot of weld holding them on. Sorry, the sun's right in the wrong spot. So one of the other side broke off when I was trying to do the bolt up. I think I must have threaded it wrong or something along those lines. So I'm going to replace them all while I'm at it, pull them all off and weld some new ones on there, just to be sure and keep it all safe down the track. So we'll cut these ones off, mock up the new ones, and I'll show you when I'm done. So you can see here they're only held on with 3 tack welds, or spot welds. So the new one I will try and tack at least 4 sides, do a little bit better job than this, just so they don't strip off again. So we've got these new bolts and nuts prepped up. So that's the original bolt, then I've just chucked the nut on the back to use as a spacer. There's another nut in here, which is what I'm going to weld on, as you can see. So I've put the earth strap directly to the bolt, and I've set up the other side, so let's weld them on. So it's not pretty, but there's a few tacks on there, and they're a lot better than what was on there from factory. So I'm not worried about that anymore. So I'll pull these bolts out and see what else is next. So next up I'll cut these 2 spacers down with the angle grinder, a little bit too long, and then I'll lineage them down slowly until they fit in the car nicely. So I've gotten these 2 tubes shortened down. I found the correct bolts from the crown and gave them a quick clean up on the threads with a wire brush. So that's ready to go back in. I'll just let them cool down and I'll put the bushes back on them. Those tubes to cool down. I gave the engine bay a quick clean. I'd like to repaint these chassis rails before the engine goes in and before the arms go on. So I did say the arms are going to come off again, but the engine is not coming out again, hopefully. So I just gave it a quick clean. It's pretty filthy, and that's actually paint or some kind of discolouring. And then I put together the front end for the left hand side. So now we have the left hand side over there, shake cam a little bit, and the right hand side here. So they're pretty much ready to go on. Just got to paint the chassis rails first. So I need to go to Bunnings and get some paint, and then I'll come back and put some paint on that. Still got to remove heaps of stuff, but I'll go to the shop before it shuts. Alright, so I'm back from the shop. Can only get one can for now. Turns out they're open till 9 o'clock, so I'll stop in at the other shop on the way home. So with my one can that I've got, I'm going to try and finish off this side, everything that needs to be painted on this side. Then tomorrow when I come in, this will be dry. I can put this side on, but before I do that, I'll pull this side apart, paint this side, and then put this driver's side back together. And then by the time I've done that, this should be dry. Put this side back together. So project for now is to paint this side, and then if I've got time and sunlight, I might try and remove some of this stuff. If not, I'll do it tomorrow. So one can probably would have been enough to do the whole job, but I'll just lay it on thick. So I've done this arm and about half the cross member all the way up to the other top mount. So tomorrow I'll pull all this apart and I'll call it a day for now. So they'll come back tomorrow and I'll be able to fit up this side and rip this side apart and put the new suspension on this side. So it's the following day. I stopped in last night and grabbed 3 more cans of paint. So we've got plenty now. And here's what I painted last night. Now it's not the best, and obviously a rattle can is not the ideal way of doing this, but I just wanted to tidy it up and just clean up some of the surface rust so it looks a bit nicer. And it looks pretty good really. For a 10-minute job. Came out quite nice. So today I'm going to rip into this side and then clean this side up a bit better, paint it, take the sway bar off, paint the front, try and paint the back, try and paint underneath, and then I'll paint that and show you the result. I cracked the sads with this side and it was really annoying me, so I got it all together now. There's a wheel on and you can see the airbag's pumped up. It's on a weird angle, which I'll have to fix something about that. But the airbag actually touches the chassis rail just there, which is a really bad idea. So it didn't do that before I welded that plate on, so I'm wondering if that plate slid down the arm a bit and it was originally back further. So I'm going to have to re-drill the holes for that at some point. But the spindle's on, the hub's on, the disc rotor is on, the caliper's not on there, but I don't need that for now. So coming back over the top, you can see the top A-arm with that thread that I was talking about earlier, the airline, which has just got a Schrader valve on it like a tyre at the moment, so it holds pressure so I can put it on the floor. The new ball joints are in and the new bushes are in, so we're getting somewhere. I come over here, I can straighten the wheels up, or wheel up, which is good. So I've got steering on this side, so that's a good start. It spins nice and freely, So that's good. So next I've got the power steering pump hanging over the front, which I'll have to do something about that in a minute. And then I've cleared off all the aircon stuff and all the other stuff that was in my way of painting this chassis rail. So that's all painted now and it's just drying. It's probably still tacky. So once that's dry, I'll chuck the other side on and then lower this thing back on the ground, and at least it'll roll in. I can move it to the other house. But now I'm going to try and clean up, and then I'll try and tackle this wiring if I get time. So it's taking a bit of time, but I've got this left-hand side back together. Same as the right-hand side, no caliper, but the rest of it's all there. So coming over here, the chassis rail is still a little bit tacky, but tried not to touch it. But either way, it's going to look better than it did. And then while I was at it, I took the power steering pump off. As you can see, there's a bit of fluid on the floor. Luckily, that didn't drip all over the new paint. And I also took the master cylinder off and quickly gave the brake booster a once-over. So I'll put that back together once it's dry, and it should look all new and fresh again. So it's another day here at the Crown. I've only been getting half days after work, so it's taking a lot of days, but not a lot of time. So yesterday we got the left-hand side all assembled and repainted. Got the aircon lines off and moved everything out of the way. So today I need to pull the wiring loom through to the cab or through into the engine bay, whichever is easier. Remove whatever I don't need. So I've noticed there's a sensor here that I'm not going to be using anymore. So I'll pull that off. There's a clip here that's a bit bigger than it needs to be, so I might trim that. Just try and clean up a few things. And then I need to try and round this heater outlet again because I've squashed it a little bit. And then I might try and slip the engine in so I can move the whole thing to my new house. So before I do any of that, I should probably clean up this mess that I've made over the last few days and make some room for the engine crane to be able to go in front of the car. So there's just mess everywhere. And I also need to try and dig the engine out, which is back here. So that's going to take me a while. So I'll do all of that and I'll get you updated when I've actually started work. Alright, so I cleaned up in front of the car. Sorted out what parts I have laying around out the front here. And then that's all the stuff that was sitting on my engine crane. That's all my tools. So now I've got the engine crane free, but I need to fix this problem first. So this ram here is off of a different engine crane because the one that came with this one is toast. So that's full up at the moment, and you can see it's only just level. And if you look at the crown behind, if I had an engine hanging off of here, it would be barely off the ground and definitely wouldn't get over the radiator support. So what I've done, put some marks on here. So this line here is fully compressed. When that's fully compressed, that line there sits on this red bit, whereas it should be up here where this red line is. So you can see it's probably 4 or 5 inches too short at a minimum. But I know with engine cranes you always run out of height. So I've gone up to this height here, and I'm going to make a spacer that's that long, so that when it's fully compressed, this will be sitting in here. But it will look like, well, the arm, the top boom, will be the height that it is when it's set here. So I'll adjust that and show you what angle would be my minimum with the new spacer. So I've lowered the crane down to that line that I made. So this will be my new minimum height of the engine crane, which is fine for 99% of things, except for when you pack it up. But when I pack it up, I can just take this bolt out, move the boom out of the way, move the spacer out of the way. So I'll make this spacer, put it in, and show you how we go. Alright, so the spacer's done. It's a 300 long piece of 40 by 40 tube. I think it's about 5mm thick or 4mm thick. So I've drilled a hole in either end. So the drill press, the belt stretched so it wouldn't drill anymore. And my hand drill's at home, so I had to use a die grinder. and then one of the die grinder's air seals let go, so I had to use my spare die grinder. So this was quite a mission, but it's all done. So this is full up now, and you can see it's touching the roof, and there's actually still more to go. I just can't go any higher because it's touching the roof. So I'll let this down, and I'll show you what down looks like now. So it's going down. That was about full high last time. So that's all the way down now, which is enough to pick the engine off the ground and move it around. So the only thing I have to do is when I want to store it is take one of these bolts out, move the boom out, the pump out the way, let the boom down. So that works really well. And now I'll try and dig the engine out. So I cleared a path and got the engine out. While I was at it, I grabbed my engine leveler, and the crane's doing well, as you can see. So that's about halfway up, and there's quite a lot of lifting length. So I'll have to get it right up the top. So my dad's going to come around and help me take the bonnet off in about an hour or so. So I'm going to try and tackle the wiring loom and get that out the way, clean up the bay, ready to put the engine in. 10 or 15 minutes, wiring loom is out. So I just had to pull some interior out, unplug the ECU, and then there was a few power wires going to the car itself. So I unplugged those and then pulled it through, or pushed it through from the other side, pulled it out on the engine bay side. So easy as. So the wiring loom's out, the engine bay is painted. I gave the firewall a quick wax and grease remover just to try and clean it up because you can't get in there once the engine's in. Then I've run a line of cable ties to hold some of the wires a bit nicer. And I had to go on these two heater lines to make them more round, so they're a bit better than they were before. So I just need to get the bonnet off and then we can chuck the engine in. Good times. So Dad came over, helped me rip the bonnet off, chuck the engine in. When the engine was hanging off the engine crane, we worked out which side the engine mounts went on, put them in. It's all bolted in now, which is fantastic. It's all bolted in, bonnet's back on. There's a jack under the back of the engine at the moment, just holding the back up until the trans gets on. But this has been a long time coming. This engine's been out for about 6 to 8 months, I think. So it's good to see it back in the bay. So it's getting late, it's the end of the weekend, the engine's in, so I'm going to call it there. Thanks for watching.